Okay, today we are going to start talking about local governments, and today we're going to look at some of the different types of local governments and how they are
Hey man,
formed.
you know what I was thinking?
So, local government, Chapter 9, the first section is units of local government. Then in Section 2, we'll look at township, and village governments. Section 3, we're going to look at city governments, and then we're going to look at some of the special needs that city governments have that township, and village governments would not have. And then in Section 4, we're going to look at how governments work together. So our objectives for Section 1 are going to be how are local governments established and why are they needed? Then we're going to look at how did the county system of government begin in the United States, and finally how is county government organized and what are the main purposes of each level of county government. Now, as we go over this, since we're doing this for the first time, if I go to Microsoft Word and I type something out, you need to write that down in your notes just like I was writing something on the marker board, okay? Okay, here we go. So, Section 1, Units of Local Government. Okay, local governments are established by and given powers from the states. Now, they are given their powers through what is called a charter from the state. And a charter is a basic plan for local government. So make sure you're writing this down. So this is what a charter is. A charter is to a town or village what a constitution is to a state or the U.S. A charter basically says this is how you're going to structure your local government. This is what you have to provide for the people. This is what you have to do for the people. So if a group of people, a group of houses, maybe there's like a housing subdivision or something like that, and they've kind of branched off on their own, and they say, you know what, we want to develop our own identity, we want to become a town, then what will happen is they can apply to the state legislature for a charter. If the state legislature agrees, they will give them a charter, and in that it will say this is what you have to provide for the people that are living in the area that you are looking at. So the citizens are going to be provided with different services. So what are the services that they have to be provided with? Well, they have to maintain roads. It's not up to the people that live in the town to maintain the roads. It's the local government that has to maintain roads. They'll do what they can. If it's more than they can do, then they will have to hire a larger contractor to come in and do that. They will provide running water. Now, here in the town of Pierce, for example, we get our water from the ground. It goes to the water tower, and then from the water tower, it heads out to the homes in the community. Now, the town of Pierce has about, I think it's 5 different wells. And these wells go down, depending on where you're at in town, they go down anywhere from about 100 to 200 feet. They tap into the water, they draw that water goes to the water tower, and from there it goes to the houses. They had to provide sewage systems. Now, in in the town of Pierce, what happens is when someone uses the toilet or something like that, the water that then leaves the house and it goes into the sewer line, and eventually it makes its way to collection ponds. The 2 collection ponds that Pierce has, if you go to where Casey's is and you go south on that asphalt road and you head out of town, just as you'll cross a bridge and then you'll continue south, and on the left hand side of the road as you're going south, you're going to see this fence, and it doesn't look like there's anything really there. You kind of see these grass mounds. Well, those go around the collection pond, and you'll see signs that say no trespassing, do not enter. Well, there's a good reason why they don't want you to go in there, okay? That's not a place to go swimming. It's not a place to go fishing. If you do go fishing there, the only thing you're probably going to catch is a brown trout or a log salmon. And that's really about it. That is where all the sewage that from the town of Pierce goes to. And then it goes there, and just like it says, it is a collection pond. Now, a lot of times in the winter, you will see a lot of ducks and geese on that pond. Why is that? Because think about where that water is coming from. Think about what's in it. That water stays open the majority of the year. It doesn't freeze. That water is warmer than, say, the water out at Willow Lake in the wintertime or something like that. So a lot of times you'll see ducks and geese there because they want to be in open water. Communities must provide sidewalks. Now what you have to realize is that from the curb, I think it's like 15 or 20 feet in, that actually belongs to the city. So let's say that you do not have a sidewalk on your lawn or on your property, and the city decides they want to build one. They will do that. However, you actually will pay for it. It's just like if the city wants to pave a street. Let's say you live on a street within the town of Pierce and it's gravel. The city decides they want to pave it. The people that live on that street have to pay for the paving. Different communities can do what they want. In Pierce, they charge the people that live on the street. In other communities, they'll say, you know what? Everybody in this town at some point is going to drive on that street, so the entire town is going to pay for it. So what they do is they figure, how much does it cost to pave the street? How many homeowners do we have in the town? And then they divide the cost by the homeowners. Sometimes it might only be $75, $100 that each homeowner has to pay. Other places like Pierce, though, where it's the people that live on the street, sometimes you might end up paying as much as $8, $9, maybe even $12 or $13,000. That's just one of the things that happens when you are a homeowner. And then trash collection. In some places, the city itself will pick up the trash. In other communities, they will actually contract that out to someone else, to a private business. That's what the town of Pierce does. The town of Pierce hires someone that owns a trash collection business, and they pick up the trash. Of Pierce, they hire a trash collection company, and so then they come around, depending on where you live at in town. They might come to your place on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, whatever the case may be. You just set the trash out, they pick it up, and then they haul it off. So that every month then, your household will get a bill from the city. On that bill, you will be charged for electricity, you'll be charged for water, you'll be charged for garbage collection, and then there's going to be some other charges on there as well. Now, with things like transportation systems, which we really don't have to worry about that in Pierce, or electricity, what will happen is, instead of having a bunch of different businesses competing with one another, towns will just have one provider for electricity. So the town of Pierce, for example, goes with the Lower Elkhorn Power District. The electricity that we get here in Pierce actually comes from Battle Creek. It travels on power lines all that way. And it's just a lot easier to do things like that. Now, within a charter, and a charter can say that it will give the freedom to tell a community, you can The city can pick up the garbage themselves. You can hire it out. A charter gives a town or a village that type of flexibility. Something else it will allow them to do is to create a city ordinance. An ordinance is a regulation that governs a community, and it acts like a law. Now, for example, in some communities, and I don't think Pierce has this, but in some communities, I believe Norfolk does, they have a city ordinance that if you are walking your pet, and mainly your dog, and your dog leaves a little something something in someone's yard or on the sidewalk, you have to pick it up and take it with you. That is why in some communities you will see people walking their pets and they will have a plastic bag over their hand. Then what they do is they reach down and they pick it up and then they pull the bag over their hand, and now the doggy do is in the plastic bag and it's not on your hand. So you're not actually touching it with your bare hand. Yes, you can tell that it's warm because you can feel it through the plastic, but it's not actually touching your hands. So don't be sitting there going, oh, gross, oh, sick, because it's not as bad as you think it is. And if you don't want to pick it up, you don't have to. However, if you get caught leaving it there, it could be as much as $150, even $175 fine. So you know, it's just so much easier to take it with you. If you go to Skyview Lake, at Skyview Lake, they have little receptacles that where people can put that. And on the bottom of them, they have little plastic bags, and that's why those are there. Those are there for people when they're walking their dogs on a leash to stop and pick up what Fido just left behind. Next, the county government, the county system of government in the United States. Now, the county system of government in the U.S. began in the southern agricultural communities in the southern states. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, those states. What you had in those states where, let's say, you had someone that lived in house number 1, and then someone else lived in house number 2, and then someone lived in house number 3, and then you had someone in house number 4, and you had someone living in number 5. And what they would do is, one time they might go to house 1 for a meeting, and then they might go to house 2 for a meeting. And so that meant that the people that were living in house number 5 had to travel all the way over here to number 1, or the people in 4 had to travel all the way up here to number 2. Well, then they would say, well, then it's only fair that 4 gets a meeting and 5 gets a meeting. But the thing is, for number 3, since they're in the middle, they really never have that far to travel at all. Well, eventually, it made more sense to just make number 3 the place where they would always have their meetings. And so everybody had to travel roughly the same distance. Eventually, this became known as the county seat. And the county seat is normally the center of government activity for the county. For example, Pierce is the county seat of Pierce County. Does anyone know what the county seat of Madison County is? If you said Norfolk, you would be incorrect. It's actually Madison. Now, it's just coincidental that Pierce and Madison